tape measure. Okay, so I have finished the back panel. I've also blocked it. Basically what I did was I cast on for the smallest size and did the back panel of the smallest size, but up to this point the instructions and the stitch counts have been identical for the first 3 sizes, and especially since I'm knitting off gauge, I've been like considering which of those 3 sizes I want to do, so that's why I blocked it at this stage so that I could measure it, figure out how big it is right now and how much width I would like to add to that in the end. And even then, like, I couldn't fully decide how much positive ease I wanted here. I don't want to go too different from the pattern, but I don't know. So that's when I did this today, and I thought that I would share it with you. I'm really excited about this. I basically just took note of the circumference of all of the garments, the hand knit garments that are currently in my wardrobe. So I know it's kind of small right now, but it literally just says like Zakuri, 116 centimeters, Kurti, 112 centimeters. I went ahead and highlighted in red the ones that I consider to not fit great. Like the 2 that I've said are too big are in the 30 to 35 centimeter positive ease range. And that's what I would, based on this list, consider to be like oversized, and like not in a cute way, like a little too oversized for me, for my preferences. And then same thing on the other side of the spectrum. I've got 1 garment with 0 positive ease, and it fits, but I don't love wearing it for like comfort reasons. And then the other one I've noted that's interesting is in the 5 to 10 centimeter positive ease range. I've got a Lauder cardigan, which I consider to be like kind of on the small side of what I'm comfortable with. Then I've also got 3 vests, my self-drafted vest, my all-season vest, and my Bit Salmoon vest. And I didn't realize till I measured them, they are all exactly the same circumference, 104 centimeters. And I don't love that fit for the cardigan because the cardigan is like more of a layering piece, whereas I wear those vests as like basically tank tops, like standalone pieces. So what I decided based on that for this is I'm not going to do that same range that I have for those other vests, just so that I can have some variety in my wardrobe and that this can be more of like an oversized layering piece. So I'm gonna go up to one of these ranges, which are the ones I've highlighted in green, and those are the garments that I like reach for the most. And the trend here is that they are all like 15 to 25 centimeters of positive ease. So long story short, based on all of that, I was able to figure out how many stitches I want to add in order to get into that range. And based on all of that, I am going to go with size 2 for these instructions. Highly recommend making a list like that if you've been knitting for a while and you've gathered a few garments, because it took like 10 minutes and it basically means that now when I'm looking at patterns and looking at the list of sizes, I have some like point of reference written down that I can compare to the garments I already have. Like I can say, oh, okay, if I make size 3, that'll be similar to my sweater, and I like the fit of that. Obviously, not an exact science, and different constructions have different fits and everything, but I still think it's going to be a great sort of jumping off point for me. Okay, first try on since joining in the round. How are we looking? It's definitely more of a Moby crop top, Moby sports bra at the moment. I think we're on track. And I need a mirror. Okay, I think we're good. I'm skeptical, but I'm trusting the process. What has me skeptical, first of all, no short rows on the back. I was a little bit surprised by that. The Moby sweater has a European shoulder construction, but the slipover is really just like a rectangle as the back panel. So little bit nervous about that, but I do think we're good, especially because it's oversized. I think it's okay. The other slight concern that I think is going to be okay is the armholes. Obviously, they are looking massive. Part of that is because I am off gauge. My row gauge is also off, so I knew that they were going to be deeper. I'm kind of okay with that because as a layering piece, I'll always be wearing something underneath, and I'm totally fine with them being deep. What has me slightly more concerned is how narrow the shoulders are. My plan right now, I have 3 balls of yarn, and this is the end of the second ball. So I think I'm going to continue the body until I'm done with this ball of yarn. Then when I join the last ball of yarn, I'm going to start by doing the collar and the cuffs. I never know what to call these on a vest. Cuffs, armbands, whatever this is. My favorite vest at the moment, fit-wise, is the Bit Salmoon Aran vest. And ideally, I would want this to be like a more oversized and also obviously crew neck version of that. And what I really like about it is the sort of shoulder shaping, how it fits my shoulders really well and also covers my shoulders. So looking at this, I mean, this is going to stretch out with blocking for sure. So I'll get like another few centimeters at least. And then if the ribbing is like, if I do like an inch and a half, that might be enough to be a bit of a shoulder cap. And then same thing down here, it should solve a lot of this issue. And then for the collar, I think that the pattern has a folded over collar. My initial thought was to not do that, but the more I think about it, I might just be erring on that side because it's July. So I do want to acknowledge that I'll be wearing this in the fall, and in the fall it might be nice to have a nice thick collar. So I will be thinking about that. And I also don't want this to be cropped. I know it looks like a crop top right now. Don't let me get lazy and crop this. If I run out of yarn, that's one thing, but don't let me get lazy because I don't actually want this to be cropped. One last exciting thing, I do want to make some trousers specifically to go with this vest. I do like to have like at least one go-to outfit for each of my handmade items. And when I was looking at the fabric I have, I've got this really nice dark navy linen, which is like a mid-weight linen, which would be perfect for trousers. So I'm thinking that when I start to get a little bored of these cables next, I'll probably take a break to turn this into some trousers, and that should be really fun too. Eating my hat. It's been way too hot lately, so all of our walks have been looking like this. So updates for you. On the vest, I am now on my last ball of yarn. I don't know what we're gonna get to size-wise, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. Maggie, I don't have another hat for you to steal. So on the vest, I've done the collar now. I haven't sewn down the collar. I did decide to make it a folded over collar though. And I'm glad I did because it's actually that type of construction in the pattern where you do like a row and a half kind of double knitting. I'd always heard it described as like one row of double knitting, but you know how you actually do like 2 rows of double knitting in order to get like one visible row of double knitting. This is technically 3 rows, so like 3 rows in order to get 1.5 visible rows. So I was actually really eager to try that, and I'm optimistic about it. If it doesn't work out, it's because my gauge is off, so nothing to do with the pattern. It does make kind of a neat fold though, like a really natural fold on the collar, and I'm hoping also gives it some structure. You really want to be involved, don't you, Maggie? So my other update is on the trousers. I'm doing the potting pants by Allottment Studios, and really optimistic about that too. They're a barrel leg trouser, and I'm doing them in a mid-weight linen. What I've done so far is put the pieces for each leg together, but I haven't finished the seams yet. I do all of my sewing on my grandmother's 75-year-old machine, so it's always the finishes that are it's always the seam finishes that are a little bit of a challenge. And usually I'm okay with doing like a French seam or a flat felled seam if it's just like 2 pieces of fabric together. But it gets a bit more complicated when there's a bunch of layers for the fabric. Oh, is that your friend, Maggie? Is that your pit bull friend? I don't think they see us. We'll go over there soon. So yeah, I'm usually totally happy with the modifications for doing like a flat felled seam or a French seam if there's only 2 pieces of fabric together. But this one has extra layers because of the pockets on one of the seams. So rather than just try to like force it and have really thick seams, I want to try doing a Hong Kong seam finish, which is one that I haven't tried before, but should be really pretty and not quite as thick if I can get it working. So that is my plan for tomorrow. What do we think, Maggie? Can I have my hat back? Where'd you put it? Okay, do we keep going? We are cutting off this tubular bind off. The pattern instructions for this step were kind of weird because I wanted to go into it with confidence after the neckline because the neckline looks good. It went well. So I wanted to follow the instructions. For the ribbing here, though, the instructions say to pick up every single stitch available to you. And then at the end, it says to bind off tightly, which, I don't know, to me that's an indicator that you should have just picked up fewer stitches if you're having to like intentionally bind off more tightly. Maybe it's a stylistic choice, but anyway, I picked up fewer stitches than what is available. I think that my pickup rate was like 7 for every 8 stitches or something. And still, I didn't really bind off tightly because I had fewer stitches, and it's still kind of flaring out. Like, if anything, I think that the actual ribbing looks pretty good. But if anything, I should have picked up even fewer stitches. So I did this on, what would it have been? I did the body on 4.5 needles. So I did the ribbing on 3.5. And I'm going to go down to 3 millimeters to do the bind off. So my plan now is to just cut off the bind off because I am not unpicking it. It's always a little annoying because you can see that cutting it off leaves like these little bits, but still cleaning this up easier than unpicking the whole bind off. I would only be concerned about it if I was like really playing yarn chicken, but I think I'm good. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where like the ribbing looks good, and then the bind off itself kind of like protrudes and it's flaring out. So yeah, going to do that again on smaller needles. I might also take off like one row because it was starting to look a little bit long. But yeah, that is the plan. Really, really hoping that works out, and then I can just proceed with the other one and whatever yarn I have left. Actually, let's check. I do not know what I did before I had this scale. I got it from my mom. She just asked me one day if I wanted one because she used to knit and doesn't anymore. And I was like, yeah, I'd like one. It always seemed like one of those like nice to haves to me that isn't like a necessity to knit, but I'm telling you, if you are like kind of a technical, analytical, like type A knitter like I am, and you've been thinking about getting a scale, get a scale. Okay, so I've got 65 grams left, and I need to use that to redo the bind off on this arm, do the other arm, and then whatever I have left is going to be the end of the body. Okay, final try on, final check in before I bind off. I am out of yarn, but I do still have scraps and a swatch that I can frog, so that should be enough to just bind off. Unsure if it's enough for a tubular bind off, which is what I want to do, but we'll see. Oh, I also finished the trousers. Here's your sneak peek of that. I love them. I've been wearing them like every day this week. So for the vest, very happy with it. It really needs blocking. It's very like structured and has zero drape to it right now. It's even trying to like cinch in at the waist. So really, really needs blocking. But absolutely in love with the collar. I love the technique that was used there. The armholes, once I frogged them and fixed them, I think they are just right, especially after blocking. It will be very good. The cables obviously need to relax with blocking too. So it's a little weird looking right now, but I am optimistic. My only remaining concern with it is the lack of short rows in the back. And I was thinking about this some more because it's definitely possible to design this in a way that introduces those cables and also has some short rows in the shoulders. But then I was also thinking about how one of you told me in the comments that you wanted to do this as your first cable project. And being at the end of this, I think this is a great first cable project. But if there was something like short rows in the back with cables, I would be a little less certain of that. So that's kind of my takeaway here. And I don't know that I'd want to phrase this as like a broad sweeping statement, but I do think that when it comes to petite knit, there's little details like the double knitting and the collar. Also like the pickup for the shoulders was described in like this really neat, detailed way. So little details like that are like very thoughtful and intentional. But then I think that things like the short rows on the back, I assume are being left out in order to cater to a lot of the beginners who knit her patterns. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just the kind of thing that I will be mindful of in the future and maybe make those modifications myself to like add those short rows. Because with this process, I kind of just wanted to like trust the process and know that Petite Knit knows what she's doing. But I think the caveat there is that if there is an advanced technique that would elevate the garment, it may have been left out in order to cater to beginners, which is, again, 100% valid. Okay, I'm gonna go finish this thing now because I'm very excited to see it blocked.